My HOA president demanded $250,000 from every home. But when the cop arrived and read my wife's ID, he snapped to attention and said, "Yes, General." That's when Karen realized she'd just declared war on the wrong woman. The fee, the refusal, and the salute heard around the room. When I tell you that our HOA president finally lost touch with reality, I'm not exaggerating. It happened on a Tuesday evening, one of those peaceful, boring suburban days where the most dramatic event is whether the trash truck arrives on time. But by the time the sun set, my wife had sparked a scandal so explosive that the police officer who responded ended up saluting her like she was royalty. Let me back up. My wife, Brigadier General Rebecca Thompson, had retired from the military just 3 months before we moved to Sunset Hills. We picked this quiet neighborhood because we thought it would finally bring us the calm we hadn't had during deployments, relocations, and military life chaos. Turns out, we moved into a battleground. The community center was jam-packed the evening everything went sideways. 60 residents squeezed into a room designed for maybe half that number. People whispered nervously, avoiding eye contact with the HOA board. And right in the center of it all sat Karen Whitfield, our HOA president, a woman who somehow managed to radiate arrogance like a heat lamp. Perfect hair, perfect blazer, perfectly manicured nails, tapping her clipboard like a countdown to everyone's suffering. She didn't bother with greetings or small talk. She stood, smoothed her blazer, and announced, "Effective immediately, every household will pay a community development fee of $250,000. Non negociable. Pay within 30 days or risk foreclosure." Gasps erupted. Someone dropped a water bottle. I swear one guy almost fainted. $250,000. For landscaping. I looked at Rebecca, and I could tell the soldier in her had already begun assessing the situation. She sat straight-backed, eyes sharp, scanning the room like she was reading the emotional terrain. Then Mrs. Martinez, a tiny 78-year-old widow, shakily stood up. Her voice trembled. "Miss Karen, I already gave you $45,000 last year for emergency roof repairs that never happened. I've been cutting meals to afford my bills. I don't have any more, please." Karen rolled her eyes so hard I thought her pupils would disappear. "Mrs. Martinez, maybe if you handled your finances responsibly, you wouldn't be in this situation." The room froze. Someone muttered, "Are you serious?" Karen kept going. "If you can't contribute to community standards, assisted living might be a more appropriate environment for you." That was the moment my wife changed. Rebecca didn't shout, didn't argue, didn't threaten. She stood with the quiet confidence of someone who spent 22 years commanding soldiers under fire. Then she said, calmly, clearly, "I refuse to pay this fee." Her voice wasn't loud, but the authority behind it landed like a hammer. Karen turned purple. "Excuse me? You refuse a board directive? Military wives need to understand this is civilian territory." I choked on a laugh. "Oh, Karen, if only you knew." But Karen didn't stop there, of course not. She dialed 911 right in front of everyone. Not the non-emergency line, not security. 911. "Yes, officers need to respond immediately," she shouted, pacing. "We have aggressive government people threatening board members." Aggressive? The woman had spoken 12 words total. 20 minutes later, Detective Jake Morrison walked in. Tall, serious, military posture. The kind of guy who could spot a lie before you even told it. Karen practically pounced on him, rambling about military intimidation and hostile behavior. Morrison held up a hand. "I'll need ID from everyone involved." Rebecca reached in her purse, pulled out what looked to everyone else like a simple card, and handed it over. He read it, and everything changed. His posture straightened so fast, it was like someone had grabbed him by an invisible string. His heels clicked together, shoulders squared, and then he saluted. Crisp, perfect, military grade. "Yes, ma'am, General. How can I assist you today?" The room collectively sucked in a breath. Karen went sheet white. "General? General? But she would..." Karen stuttered. But the catastrophe train had already left the station. Detective Morrison turned to Rebecca. "Are you under threat, ma'am?" Rebecca shook her head. No, but this community is. And then she pulled out a folder, her documentation of every shady fee, false violation, suspicious transaction, and resident complaint. Morrison's eyes narrowed as he read. Something was wrong, very wrong. And then Karen, panic rising, whispered something into her phone. Whatever it was made Detective Morrison's face drain of color. He slowly looked up at her. Mom, I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't leave this building. The room erupted. People whispered. Mrs. Martinez cried. Tyler, our neighbor, kept recording, and his live stream jumped from 200 viewers to 2,000 in minutes. Karen realized she'd triggered a chain reaction she couldn't control, but she still didn't understand the worst part. Rebecca wasn't just angry. She was preparing for war, and Karen had no idea what she had awakened. Something big, dangerous, was hiding in Karen's past, and we were about to uncover it. The secret file, the counterattack, and the truth behind Karen's past. The drive home after the disaster meeting was so quiet I could hear my heartbeat. Rebecca stared out the window, her jaw tight, the look she got when analyzing a threat. Then she finally spoke. Logan, I need to tell you something. I've been documenting Karen since week 2. I almost swerved the car. Since week 2? Why didn't you tell me? Because patterns matter, she said calmly. And I needed proof. When we got home, she opened a thick folder. Inside were photos of Karen surveillance watching homes, copies of violations citing rules that didn't exist, inconsistencies in HOA funds, 6 past special assessments. All suspicious, all unexplained. Karen isn't just power-hungry, Rebecca said. She's organized, strategic. This feels like psychological warfare. And, as if the universe was confirming it, my phone rang. It was my principal. Logan, we received serious complaints about you indoctrinating students with political bias. You're required to come in tomorrow for an inquiry. My stomach dropped. This was Karen's retaliation. Rebecca placed a hand on my shoulder. She's escalating because she's afraid. That means we're close to the truth. I spent half the night trying to sleep and the other half failing miserably. Finally, at 2 a.m., I sat at my computer, determined to uncover whatever Karen was hiding. I dug through public records, then military databases, then archived disciplinary filings. And there it was, the bombshell. Not only had Karen been in the military, soldiers under her command had died because of her. 12 years ago, she'd served in Army logistics. She was responsible for ordering communications equipment and protective gear for forward units. Except she diverted funds, stole from unit welfare accounts, funneled money through fake vendors, purchased luxury items for herself. 3 soldiers died in an ambush. Their radios hadn't arrived because Karen had stolen the money meant to buy them. The case had been quietly buried, classified not to protect her, but to protect sensitive operational details. A dishonorable discharge was the only punishment leadership could impose without risking national security. And Karen had been festering with resentment ever since. Rebecca, I said, voice shaking. She's been targeting military families on purpose. My wife nodded slowly. I suspected. This confirms it. The next morning at school was a circus. 3 mothers, Karen's loyal soldiers, were waiting to accuse me of pushing anti-authority agendas. They had recordings of class discussions completely twisted out of context. Before I could defend myself, the conference room door opened. Detective Morrison walked in, with 2 police officers. Mr. Logan Thompson? Yes. You're not under investigation, but we need to speak with your HOA president. Immediately, he laid documents on the table. Resumes, signatures, funneled community funds. One mother gasped, "Oh my God, she used our dues to pay for her trips." The second mother started shaking. She told us it was for playground repairs. Everything began unraveling. The school realized Karen had used her concerned parents group to weaponize complaints against me. Then Morrison revealed the final nail. Mrs. Whitfield has been running a continuous financial fraud operation through Sunset Hills HOA. Multiple counts of elder financial abuse. And she is wanted for questioning regarding classified military irregularities. By noon, the live stream of the HOA meeting hit 50,000 views. By evening, it hit 175,000, and the entire neighborhood learned the truth. Karen tried to flee. Police arrested her 3 blocks away. When they brought her to the station, she screamed, "You can't arrest me. My brother is a congressman." Morrison didn't even blink. "We already spoke to him, ma'am. He's cooperating fully." Her world collapsed. Later that night, when Rebecca and I finally sat on the couch, exhausted, she turned to me. "It's over," she said softly. I shook my head. "No, it's just beginning. There are people who need your help, Rebecca. Mrs. Martinez, the other military families, everyone she scammed." Rebecca smiled, calm, fearless, commanding. "Then I guess I'm not retired anymore." The Sunset Hills HOA had no idea. They were about to be rebuilt by a general